guys, it is Casual Tuesday once again. I just need to keep having Casual Tuesdays, right? I mean, I'm rocking a Looney Tunes white t-shirt, ready to rock and roll. And honestly, if you're watching on YouTube, it's the first time that you viewers are seeing me wear a hat. I'm wearing a backwards cap. And I'm rocking and rolling for Pigskin Frenzy for college football. We are in our next round of spring results, and we have this one next week, and then in 2 weeks, we have 3 more rounds of spring results if you include this one, and we're ready to rock and roll and finish up and round out spring football here around here for Pigskin Frenzy. And with that being said, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, or listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you have to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. Instagram, Facebook, and X, all you got to do is type in Pigskin Frenzy, follow, like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get Instagram's trivia question stories. Go and answer today's college football question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com is the website. There you will find a home and about me page. You're going to find a lot of stuff about me. You're going to find out about my history with sports communication, sports media, and broadcasting. You're going to find out about the history of this podcast. You're going to find platforms page where all the platforms I just mentioned, you can choose. You can click on each logo and choose where to listen to Pigskin Frenzy. Store coming soon. We're going to get into that a little bit later on in the year. But we also have our affiliations page. This brings us to our affiliations with the Beard Club. Guys, if you or your or significant others of your male, if you need a good shave and just just feel good, make your guy look good. And if you just want to look good and feel clean and shaved and fresh, as these kids call it, as I call it, as 23 years old, go and get the Beard Club. The Beard Club is where it's at. Click on the Beard Club logo on my affiliations page at Pigskin Frenzy, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you will find all sorts of products. You will find a beard boar bristle brush. You're going to find a loofah. You're going to find a boar bristle brush. You're going to find beard and body wash, beard and face wash. You're going to find 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner, amongst other things. What you're also going to find is what I like, and that is the Beard Club beard growth grooming kits. You're going to find a beard grooming kits, 15% off discount. Type that in. You'll find it. You'll get it on the Beard Club website. Just go to www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Click on the logo on my affiliations page there, and click on the logo. You're going to go right to the website. You can also go to my link tree on X, Instagram, and Facebook on the bio. Click on the link tree. Then you'll click on the Beard Club link there, and it'll take you to the website for your Beard Club products. The Beard Club, it is going to help you with your grooming and facial hair needs, and they will be met with the Beard Club. Thank you to our proud partner there. Guys, college football day, and we are ready to rock and roll. We're on spring results. We're going really good and flying by these spring results. Basically, if you haven't noticed, and I'm just going to catch you up on the theme of the outlooks and the spring results. If you haven't noticed, we're going in the order of what we did our spring outlooks on. We really are. We're going in our order. We are going in fantastic order, by the way. We went with Alabama. We already did Missouri spring results back in March. We already did that because they had theirs way early. So we already had that there. I already had that covered. So we did Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, and NC State. Then last week we did LSU, South Carolina, UCF, and Georgia Tech. Now we're going to do Michigan and Ann Arbor, Ohio State, their counterpart in the Big Ten, and their rival in Columbus, Ohio. And then we're going to do and go to the Big Ten again, but we're going to go out west to the Big Ten to Eugene, Oregon, and Autzen Stadium. And then we're going to go back down to the south to the SEC with Ole Miss in Oxford. So that's how we're wrapping things up. We're going to go by order of what we went in. Next week, you should already know the order of next week. We'll get into that, and we'll tell you all about that. And we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Let's talk about Michigan's spring game. I'm curious about Michigan's spring game. This episode may not take a whole lot of time, but it's going to be a good episode. It's going to be awesome. Just keep plugging into Pigskin Frenzy on all platforms. Just keep, diving in to this episode. It's going to be fun, and we're going to, get with it and just, jam-packed episode with 4 teams we're going to talk about and take away from their springs. Like I said, probably not going to be that too long of an episode here on Tuesday, but we're going to get with it. Here we go. Michigan, spring, Ann Arbor. Let's rock and roll, and let's talk about their spring game and their spring results. They lost a lot. I mean, they did. I mean, let's just be honest. They lost a lot. They lost J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum. They lost Roman Wilson. They lost a lot of guys on defense. Junior Colson, Mike Stanstrill. They lost a lot of guys on this team because they won the national title a lot. They've accomplished their goal at Michigan. They wanted to move on to the NFL. Understandable. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? Accomplish your goal and your dreams. So, what does Michigan have now? And that's the real question. What does Michigan have now? Well, who do they got now? And I think that's the real question. Who's going to replace J.J. McCarthy, quarterback? That was one of the questions I asked. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. What is Sharon Moore's vision going to look like? I wanted to know about that. And who's going to, kind of take the reins and help out Donovan Edwards at the running back spot. So that's what I kind of wanted to see. Running back is taken care of. We're probably not going to mention too much of the running back spot today. That's kind of an honorable mention. Donovan Edwards is going to be fine at that spot. Behind him is looking really promising too as well at running back. So we're not going to mention the running back too much. The running back the running game was really good this spring for Michigan. So the running back showed out. But we're going to talk about this quarterback battle, especially between Davis Warren and Alex Orji, the 2 quarterbacks who are in the battle right now. Alex Orji was using games last year under Sharon Moore's offense and Jim Harbaugh's offense as a Tim Tebow-like quarterback, like Chris Leak, who was a starter, but Tim Tebow came in for running packages. That's kind of how this is with Alex Orji. And Alex Orji could be, I'm not going to say he's the next Tim Tebow because it's going to be hard to replace a Tim Tebow, especially in that conference and in that time frame. But Alex Orji was in that type of role. He was the running quarterback, doing design running back packages and quarterback power runs. And now this spring, he's in a quarterback battle to where, oh man, like Tebow was back when Tebow was in Florida. He can throw too. We're going to watch him throw the ball. So he's going to throw he's throwing the ball a little bit, and he's throwing the ball well. He's throwing the ball well. He's developing. He's a great runner. Alex Orji is doing well. But here comes Davis Warren. And in the spring game, as we now dive into the spring game, that's what happened, and that's what we saw with Michigan. And Davis Warren is a guy that is pushing Alex Orji to the limit, and Davis Warren could end up beating Alex Orji out to start at quarterback. Now, we already know how that usually goes when one guy loses. It happens around December. He ends up in that dreaded black hole as the transfer portal. Anyway, so I don't know if you heard me when I said that. The transfer portal. So, yeah, I mean, it could happen. Who knows? But that was interesting, and that's one of the things I liked about the spring for Michigan. And that's number 1 on my list is the quarterback battle between Alex Orji and Davis Warren. They're both doing really good, and they're both looking promising in Sharon Moore's offense. And I like what they're both doing. They're running the ball well, and they are throwing the ball well, also. So, and that's what's so good about it. It's straight competition to see who can lead Sharon Moore's offense starting this August. They have a big game coming up on September 7th. That's the second week. It's week 2, and it's against SEC newcomer Texas. That's going to be a game in the Big House, home game for the defending national champions as they host Texas and Quinn Ewers, a college football playoff team in their own right. So Texas has got a lot of big games coming up. Michigan, Georgia, I mean, they got a lot of big games coming up on their schedule. Michigan's got Texas coming into the Big House. Going to be rocking, going to be packed. Let's see how that game's going to go about right now. But I circle that date when it comes to the spring game on top of that because I want to see if they are going to be ready for the physicality that Texas is going to bring in Ann Arbor. That is all why I'm doing this with Michigan. I want to see what they're going to bring not only to Texas, the Big Ten this season. They lost a lot. Sharon Moore's their new head coach after Jim Harbaugh left to the NFL to go to his former NFL team, the Los Angeles Chargers. And it's going to be quite interesting to see how the vision's going to take out. Their quarterbacks look fine. I think either one of them could start for Michigan right now. I think either one of them could start, and I think either one of them could, do well in their offense. That's number one. Number two, they still have a solid defense. I like that. I like that a lot. Their defense is still solid. Don Winkendale is doing it. He is building a force on defense for this Michigan Wolverines team. Could you see them losing a couple of games? Maybe. I don't think they're going to win the national championship again, but they look solid enough on defense to be competitive in the Big Ten and to give a lot of teams trouble in games this season. They're going to play like they are the defending national champions, and they're going to play like they are on a mission to try to get back to the 12-team playoff in December. So their defense looks solid in a lot of key areas. I think the secondary is a little thin and young, but they got to develop in some areas, and I think that's the only downside. But their secondary looked fine. They got a lot of the young secondary, I thought. When you look at the secondary with Zeke Berry and Jaden McBurrows and Zeke Berry had a big impact for Michigan in the secondary, and they both look primed to start and look primed to play coming up in the fall. They got a lot of shoes to fill with guys like Dax Hill, guys like Mike Sanderstill going to the NFL and leaving and making an impact at Michigan before them. They got a lot of shoes to fill, but they can fill it. They can try to fill it, and they can do really good in that secondary. That's going to be tough, but they can do it. That secondary shows promise, but they got a lot of things to clean up because they are young, like I said. So the young secondary, that's the only downside I really have about Michigan. Their defense looked good overall. Their the spots are good. Their defensive line looks good as well. They look very physical. They're returning a lot on defense. They lost a few guys on defense, but not a whole lot. Mainly on their offense is where they lost a lot. But their defense looks physical and look good. And number three, the atmosphere and the environment that I wanted to see with Sharon Moore looks great. The excitement is good. Sharon Moore is ready to lead this team. He is ready to rock and roll with this team coming up this fall, and he's ready to go. He's ready to go. And I think that's what I'm excited about because he's ready to go and ready to rock and roll with this team. And I think it's exciting. He's energetic. He's enthusiastic. He wanted to be Michigan's head coach. That's where he wants to be. He wants to be in Ann Arbor, and I think that's what drives these players to run through a brick wall for him. He wants to be there for him. He wants to coach them. He wants to develop them. And I think that's a coach that you want to play for. So Sharon Moore, the environment and the culture looks good. And that's what I wanted to see in the spring early on. I think one downside that I had was a couple of downsides. They lost a lot. That's one. How are they going to replace and fill some shoes going into this season? And number two, thin on secondary. I think secondary could cause them a lot of problems. I think they need to clean up some things on the secondary. I think they need to clean up some things when it comes to the O-line. O-line looks good, but clean a little bit of things up when it comes to pass blocking for sure for Orji or Warren, whoever starts, but not minor things. If I had to grade Michigan spring overall, I would probably say A minus. I would say A minus. I think they look good. I think they have some things to clean up, but a lot of people have things to clean up, but not a whole lot. They look good. They look ready for the season. Can that translate into fall camp of the things I just said? So we don't know. We're going to find out come fall, but A minus is what I would grade them for Michigan spring. Let's see how they do in the fall, and especially with tough games against Ohio State and including Texas in week 2 of the college football season. So that's Michigan spring, and that was their spring results. Let's go over to Columbus, Ohio, to their counterpart and their rival, Ohio State. And we're already gotten through with Michigan. We're going to go with our next team here with Ohio State. And if you look at Ohio State and their takeaways, I think you're gonna you're gonna think you don't know what you're talking about, dude. In a way, I kind of do. Offense looked a little sluggish. I'm not gonna lie. I thought the offense looked a little bit sluggish. I think it looked okay, but it wasn't picture perfect. All quarterbacks really didn't show out. I was expecting more from Will Howard. I was expecting more from Devin Brown. Lincoln Kleinholtz. I was thinking more from even. I'm gonna say it, Julian Sayin, Aaron Nolan. I didn't see much from Aaron Nolan that much, but I was looking for some of these guys to try to step up. Kleinholtz, Sayin, Brown, Howard, Nolan didn't really dress and play. I didn't really see a lot from these guys. I didn't. So, they showed some stuff. I mean, Brown, 5 for 7, 66 yards and a touchdown, 10 out of 17 for Kleinholtz for 2 interceptions, 71 yards, 1 interception for Julian Sayin, 77 yards. For Howard I think Howard was the most consistent with 9 and 13. And for 77 yards, but they didn't really stand out from each other. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Here's what I liked. Here's the number one thing I like from Ohio State. And let me just give you a quick recap before I go into the spring. Before and after the Missouri Cotton Bowl, Ohio State started loading up. They started loading up. In fact, like the night of the Cotton Bowl, Ohio State had a transfer commit in the name of Quinshon Judkins, Ole Miss transfer running back, transferred to Ohio State, and he transferred there, and then they started bringing guys back. Travion Henderson is coming back. Emeka Abuka is coming back. Emeka Abuka is coming back. You got Jack Sawyer coming back. You got a lot of guys coming back for Ohio State on defense, on offense. You got Seth McLaughlin, the center from Alabama, the infamous center from the Rose Bowl. He was going to be their center from Ohio State. You got Will Howard coming in from Kansas State. They loaded up. And I'm saying loaded up to a point where they're creating a super team up there, and they should be in the playoff. If not, possibly January 20th in 2025 in the national championship game against whoever they play. I'm not joking. That's how loaded their roster is. The problem is the physicality to me, and the problem is the quarterbacks aren't separating from each other. I'm going to get to that here in a little bit. Here are the things I did like. And some of the things I did like. I like the running game. I think Henderson and Judkins they're going to do great. Running game looked good. I think the receiving room is deep. Those are that kind of goes hand in hand. So core groups are pretty good. That's the number one thing that I like from this spring. They are all doing well and they look good and they look ready to go coming up in the fall. I like that. That's fine. The defense, number 2, Jim Knowles on defense, cooking up something special with this team. This defense looks, dominant. I mean, you got JT Tumo Olowo, Low Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke, Tyleek Williams, Ty Hamilton, Lathan Ransom. You got Caleb Downs, who transferred from Alabama into Ohio State secondary on that defense as well. They all were dominating in that defense for Ohio State. They're all starting. That defense is going to be dominant this season. That's going to be a dominant defense. They looked good. They looked physical on defense. The tackling was not the best. I think the tackling could have been a lot better. I think tackling was an issue, but they can get that cleaned up prior to the fall. I think they're going to be dominant enough on defense to where they're going to carry them to win some games. I'm not joking. They look good on defense. I think the impact freshmen are going to be a good thing. I think when it comes to the receiving room, I think Jeremiah Smith's going to be that meal ticket at receiver, and he could be that next big thing in the receiving room at Ohio State. You got a mentor like Emeka Abuka coming in there who's a senior, a super senior, and who can mentor and show Jeremiah Smith the ropes a little bit in terms of receiving and how to play the game at the college type level. So he can be that sort of guide a little bit, but Jeremiah Smith can be that next big thing in the receiving room at Ohio State. A lot of freshmen in there, and he's being compared to Julio Jones. Julian Fleming, who went from Penn State to Ohio State, he is there as well. I forgot about Julian Fleming coming in there. There's just a lot of transfers coming in there. The hype is real around the freshmen. And they all look good as well. So those are two things that I liked from Ohio State. Mainly three things if you want to count the receiver, the defense, the running back, and I guess the freshmen. So that's really four things. Four things that I really liked about from Ohio State's, team in the spring and how they all looked. Here are the couple of things, the two takeaways that I did not like from Ohio State. And you're probably going to think this guy's crazy. But I'm not. I don't like the separate. I think the separation from the quarterbacks is a little different. I think Will Howard could be that guy coming up in the fall, and I think he should start after starting 2.5 to 3 years at Kansas State. But it's hard to sit and say that he can start, but he's not separating himself from Devin Brown and Lincoln Kleinholtz and Julian Sayin. They're all not separating from each other. There's no separation. I would like to see more separation from the quarterbacks. I would like to see who's going to stand out. You're going to think it's too early to tell. Here's what I think. I think you're right, and you probably are right on that. But when fall comes and they're going to be the same in terms of no separation, that's going to be a problem. Somebody's got to step out and somebody's got to show out at quarterback. I think that's one. You got to take control and navigate this Ryan Day offense. That's and Chip Kelly offense. That's number one. Number two, I think the physicality is, to me, an issue. Like I mentioned, the tackling on defense was okay, but not good. They missed a lot of tackles that they shouldn't have missed. I think and not only that, physicality on the O-line as well. I think physically on the O-line should be a lot better from what they're putting in from the portal and pulling out from the portal. I think Ohio State can be a lot better physically because of what they're pulling out in the transfer portal. That's just how I view it. I think physicality and the separation at quarterbacks are my two biggest things that standing out from each spring that they got to clean up going in to this season and going into the fall camp. So if I had a grade for Ohio State, if you want to do a school letter grade, give me for Ohio State about, I would say, an A. Just an A, not an A minus, not an A plus, just a regular A, an A. They had some moments to where I could demote them, probably do a B plus maybe. But I think they're strong and talented. On that roster is just too strong and talented to not be B plus. They're A. They're just an A group. So give me an A for Ohio State spring. I think they got a lot. I think they got some things to clean up before the fall and before the season starts. But they can do it. They can do it. So that's just how I view it, and that's just how I view it with Ohio State. That was Ohio State spring. That was Michigan spring. Let's go to one more Big Ten team and then go to the SEC for Ole Miss. Let's go to one more Big Ten team, and let's talk about Oregon spring game. So, what I like from Oregon, I think Oregon could be a team like in there that can compete with Michigan and compete with Ohio State in the Big Ten. It's going to get interesting come fall. All right, it's going to get interesting with who can be the team that could compete with Ohio State and compete with Michigan in the Big Ten. Here comes Dan Lanning in Oregon, because Dan Lanning, out of everybody, in my opinion, that's coming to the Big Ten, out of the four teams that's probably, I think, it's going to translate well. I think it's going to be Oregon. I really do. I think it's going to be Oregon. And what I like the quarterbacks scenario. That's for sure. I like what they're doing at quarterback. I think from top to bottom, the quarterback room is solid. That's my number one thing. What I liked about them is good. I liked how I think the quarterback room is solid. Dylan Gabriel looked good. I think Dante Moore behind him also looks phenomenal. I think the future is bright in Eugene, Oregon at quarterback. I think if something were to happen to Dylan Gabriel, I would put my trust in Dante Moore. I think Dante Moore is a solid player. He went to UCLA, played a little bit, but he's going to be a backup this coming up season as Dylan Gabriel plays his final year of college football at Oregon, in the Big Ten this season. But he could be that guy to lean on if something happens to Dylan Gabriel. I don't expect anything to happen to Dylan Gabriel. I don't expect anything at all to happen to him. I think Dylan Gabriel's going to be okay. But Dante Moore can be that guy you lean on as a backup and a starting quarterback next season and as we go on. Oregon looks good. They look good in the quarterback room. Receiving room is also deep. They bring back Trayshawn Holden. They bring back Tez Johnson. I mean, their receiving room is pretty deep still. They bring back a deep running back room. They look good on offense. I think their offense is pretty good and looks solid, especially in the quarterback area. That's number one for me, even though I just said a few things. Number two, I like their defensive line. I think their defensive line looks good as well. I think what they did on defense up front on defense is pretty solid. I think they can put a lot of pressure on opponents' offensive line and quarterbacks in the Big Ten coming up in the fall. I think their defensive line is very physical, and they showed it in this spring game. That's number two for me for Oregon. Number three, and what I kind of liked and what I really liked, last but not least, is Ferguson at tight end. I like the tight ends. Jake Ferguson, Ferguson. I liked Herbert. I liked all those guys at tight end. I think their tight end spots are looking really good. I think they can be really tremendous pass catchers, but they can also make an impact in the blocking game as well for these running backs, for these receivers, or for the quarterback who, if Dylan Gabriel's going to take off. I think the tight ends looked really good this spring. I think they look good in the spring game as well. And I think overall they looked good in a lot of areas, especially on offense and a front line on the defense. I think the secondary, I think if you want to work on some stuff, I think secondary needs a little bit of work, not too much work. I think the secondary is a little bit better than Michigan's at right now. I think Oregon's secondary is better right now than at Michigan's. I think they need to clean up some stuff because they're a little bit young, but not too bad. Jabbar Muhammad's there. You got him there, but behind him, we got to see who steps up behind him as well. So I think that's going to be the big challenge there. Who steps up and helps out Jabbar Muhammad in the secondary? I think linebacker spots need a little bit of work as well. Not too bad, but not like the secondary, but a little bit of work up the middle too, as they gave up some big plays up the middle. So things to clean up. Linebacker. And a little bit on the secondary. Other than that, very physical team. They're a fast team. They look good on offense, and they look like they are going to rock and roll in the Big Ten. If I had to put a grade on Oregon spring game and spring results, if I looked at Dan Lanning right now and said, dude, this team could go to the playoffs. This team will go to the playoffs. I think they're going to make the playoffs. 12-team playoff. Oregon is probably going to be one of the teams in it. I would rate them at a school grade of A+. I think they did good. I think they did really good. A+. And you're going to think, dude, you're going to, rank them at A+. I think they did A+ work, especially on the defensive line, offensive line, running backs. They need some work. Everybody needs work. But I think they did majority of the things right in this game. I think Oregon's a team. They get that's my first A+ grade that I've given out. I think they looked really good. I'm high on Oregon. I think Oregon's going to be a team that you got to watch out for come spring. So that's my grade on Oregon, and that's my spring results for Oregon. And let's see how they look going into the fall camp and going into the fall here in 2024. Last but not least, that was the Big Ten. Let's do, last but not least, before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy, we're doing great on time, 28 minutes here for the spring results, the spring football results. Let's go down to the SEC, go down to the South, and let's talk about some Ole Miss football. Ole Miss is building, man. I mean, they got a lot from the transfer portal, just like Ohio State did. Receivers loaded. They got Trey Harris. They got Jordan Watkins. They got Dayton Wade. They got Juice Wells from South Carolina. Pulled him in from the portal. They got a lot of guys. They got Caden Priest scoring at tight end. At running back, Ulysses Bentley the fourth. They got Logan Diggs at running back. Man, they got Jackson Dart still at quarterback. A loaded team on all sides of the ball. Jared Ivey's back. Walter Nolan came in from the portal as well. He's in there. They got a lot of guys, dude. They got a lot of guys on that defense, on that offense that are dogs, and they could play and be a problem in the SEC coming up. The only problem that I got with Ole Miss, and you know what? How about this? I'll save that for the end of this topic. For the end of this topic, before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy, I will tell you my only problem with Ole Miss. Well, my major problem with Ole Miss. There's a few that they need to work on, but my major problem. Let's tell you about the things that they did good. The three things that I liked. Number one, I think the running back spot's going to be just fine. I really do. I think the running back spot's going to be just fine. They're not going to hurt not having Judkins. I think they're going to be okay. Bentley looked great. Logan Diggs looked good also. I think they look great. I think they're going to be splitting the snaps. I think they're going to look great running the football. And you got a lot of backs down there that could do some damage on the ground in this offense for Ole Miss. I think they're going to be fine. I don't see an issue with, okay, the Judkins is going to get replaced. It got replaced. Who's going to replace him? You already got two good replacements there. I think they're going to be fine in Ole Miss's offense. I think the running game is going to be fine. They look good running the ball, and the running game looks good on offense. That's number one for me. I think that defensive line at number two, that's my number two. The defensive line looks fine. Jared Ivey, Walter Nolan, they both look good in the in the Grove Bowl, in the Cardinal red, baby blue, powder blue, unis, but they look good they look good, man. They look good. They look a little bit bigger on the defensive line, which is good. They need to get more physical and get bigger and get more bulky and physical if they want to compete in the trenches in a physical contest with Georgia, Texas, and the likes of those in the SEC coming up this fall, even though they're not playing Texas, I don't think. But they are playing Georgia and LSU, though. So LSU's got a heck of an offensive line. So I'm just going to say that's going to be a matchup as well. That defensive line looks solid physically, and I think that's what they need. They need to improve a little bit more physically. They're not all the way there yet, but they're getting there, and that's what Ole Miss needs to punch their ticket in. Be physical. They need to play physical against these big teams. Georgia, LSU, Oregon even, Ohio State even. They need to play physical. Right now, Ole Miss looks better physically than I've seen them in a while. So I think it's going to be it looks good physically. And number three, this is kind of a number three here that's just kind of, obvious, but it all really now revolves just around Jackson Dart. It really does. Jackson Dart is the face of this program. He's the face at quarterback. He's a senior. He is the captain. He is a true leader of this team, and he has shown that he cares about his teammates. He's a good teammate. He shows that he cares about this team, and he's the chosen one. Anakin Skywalker, Star Wars reference, because I know he's a Star Wars fan, and I'm a Star Wars guy too, so I gotta say it. But he's the chosen one and the leader of this team. So if I had to sit there and say that if anybody says otherwise, then go watch last season, go watch the spring, and tell me otherwise. I think you're going to be sorely mistaken and be, okay, this guy is the leader of this team, because he is. He's the face of this team, and he showed true leadership during the spring with workouts, with how he was, showing, younger players how to be when it comes to plays. I think he's a true leader and helping everybody out when he can. He's a guy that could be a good coach as well. So Jackson Dart showing everybody and that he's a true leader for this team and Ole Miss. That's my three things that I really liked about Ole Miss's spring. A couple of things that I didn't like. I think secondary a little bit. I think secondary could be an issue. They got some guys on secondary, but I think they're a little thin on secondary. I think that's my only little issue that I have that they need to clean up on. But that's not really. It's not it. I mean, that's really, that's not really. Yes, that could be fine. That could be fixed up come fall camp. So not a whole lot. But I think that there's some things like the little things when it comes to the secondary that needs to be cleaned up for Ole Miss, needs to be cleaned up that I saw in the spring. If I had to letter grade Ole Miss, I'm going to give them an A, just an A. Leaning towards an A+, but I'm going to give them an A. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to give them just an A. And this is how I will end the spring results, period, in general, and conclude this episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Here's why. Ole Miss gets hyped up every year. Excuse me. They get hyped in the years they get hyped up. I will say this. When they do not get hyped up, let's just reword this. Let's start it out this way. When they get hyped up and they are a team that is under the radar but has talent, they go, I don't know, 9 or 9-3, 10-2, 11-2, like they did this season. They had their first 11-win season this past season in 2023 in program history. But when they're hyped up, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to do this. You'll only lose one game, and that's to Georgia. They're going to make it to the SEC championship in Atlanta. When they're hyped up like that, they end up going 8-4 or 7-5. Or 8-5, or I'm sorry, and finish the season with bowl season 8-5. When they get hyped up, they end up losing more games that they shouldn't have lost. That's the only thing that scares me about this team. And they have done it. They did it the season after Matt Corral, that Matt Corral season, when they went to the Sugar Bowl and lost to Baylor. They made it to the Sugar Bowl and lost to Baylor. They had a good season. They lost to Baylor, but they had a really good season. They had a 10-win season, one of their highest total win seasons in history. But the next season that happened, they ended up fumbling. They ended up going 8-5, losing to Texas Tech in the Texas Bowl. That's my only issue about Ole Miss. When they get hyped up, they end up losing more than they should. That's my thoughts. That's why I am getting them an A, because I want to see how they're going to do in the fall and how they're going to react to all this hype. Is it going to be something that they overcome? Are they going to be better? Or are they going to prove, like history does tend to repeat itself, and as they are hyped up, they lose games that they're not supposed to lose, and they go 8-5 or 9-4 or whatever. That's my thoughts. That's how I look at it. And that was the spring result for Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, and Ole Miss. And we are out of time. And for just a big thank you for everybody for listening and watching Pigskin Frenzy on all platforms and having a wonderful Tuesday. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you have to do, just share around with others and follow on there as well. X, Instagram, Facebook, just type in Pigskin Frenzy. Follow up the pages there. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. That is our website. Go and check it out. Go and look at Home and About Me page, the platforms page, our proud partner of the Beard Club, and go rep and get their products from the Beard Club. You're not going to be disappointed by having your grooming and facial hair needs met. Guys, we'll be back Thursday for a schedule-released reaction of Pigskin Frenzy for NFL schedule. The NFL schedule is coming out Wednesday. We're going to react to it Thursday here on Pigskin Frenzy, and who's got the hardest schedule, who's got a lighter schedule than others. We're going to talk about it and give small updates on all-season workouts as well. So don't miss Thursday's episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Keep an eye out for that one as well. For everybody here listening, have a great rest of your Tuesday. I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you Thursday for another edition of Pigskin Frenzy. For everybody out there, stay the course.